With Brittany. I'm your host, Brittany Rose, and this is another special edition of Build with Brittany. It is a coffee and construction replay. We did coffee and construction back in April, and it went off so well that we had to run it back for anybody who missed it. This is super exciting because this is a longtime friend that I brought to the stage to explain to you everything from fix and flip all the way to development. I'm sitting down with Kevin Shelton of Park Street Homes. He is a legend in urban infill and affordable housing development. We're gonna dive into how he's scaling from fix and flipping to 200 homes a year, what to actually look for when hiring contractors, and how he's expanding into new markets like Birmingham. And you're gonna wanna stay to the end where he talks about raising over $7 million in capital and the real cost of going big in development. Let's get into it. I would consider him like a stable in the community, an OG, if you will. Now, we will also be visiting one of his projects tomorrow. We'll be visiting a luxury custom home project that he and his wife is working on, Kevin and Aisha Shelton, and they have been so warm, so welcoming, so giving to not only me, but to the Wire community, a wealth of knowledge, and they have launched a program called Black Men Buy Houses, which I think is incredible. Looking forward to figuring out how we can do women in real estate plus Black men buy houses. So let's give Mr. Kevin Shelton a round of applause. So this session is all about how to scale your real estate business, your real estate development business. As we talked a little bit about this morning, we want to start with we want to talk about beginning with the end in mind, right? Making sure that when we're building this business, we are building it to expand, to have the bandwidth and the capability to be able to go nationwide, to go international, to go from 1 to 5 to maybe 20 projects at a time, right? And it's incredibly difficult because not only do you need the knowledge and the capability to run a development company and be a builder and all of those things, but you also need to know how to run your business. You also need to know how to get the right people in the right seats to be successful. So I'm really excited about this conversation. I think it's going to be really helpful. Let me start off with just hearing your story. Tell them who you are, where you're from, what you do.
Thank you. And thank you for having me. And one half of the Sheltons, my lovely wife, will be out with us tomorrow. But I'm Kevin Shelton, one of the co-founders of Park Street Homes, which is just me and my wife. And to be honest, when we started Park Street Homes, it came out of a need more than it came out of a desire to start our own business. I've been in construction my entire adult life, so from the building aspect, that's not the hard part. We started our business because when I first married my wife and we wanted to move back to 3rd Ward where I was raised, there was about a 5-year period of time where there was no new construction housing. And my wife didn't want to live in a renovation, and she didn't want to live in an old raggedy house, and she didn't want to live in a project. So she was like, well, you got to move me in a new house. So at the time, we moved further out. So we moved almost to Pearland. And I said, well, since there's no new housing, and at the time I was building in the medical center, I said, well, let's build something. And we started our journey then, started off buying rentals, flipping, Airbnb, doing full-scale renovations, and then we just grew to new construction, which we could have started in new construction, but at the time, you could buy houses for super cheap. So it was a really low bar entry, but what you realize is, in a lot of our urban areas, where you end up losing your shirt is in appraisals and values on the backside, and new construction doesn't have that same risk. So we lost our shirt for several projects to the tune of about $300,000, and we pivoted to all new construction. So now we no longer renovate, we just do new construction because if you build a house and I build a house, generally it's about the same, right? The cost basis is the same. If you renovate a house and I renovate a house, well, I could put $100,000 in my house, you could put $5,000 in your house. But if you're my comp, then we have a problem. And that's what we were experiencing. Because I'm a bougie builder. Anybody that's a builder in the room, if you're a bougie builder, raise your hand. No? Oh, there we go. We at least got one. So I want to put new electrical, and new plumbing, and new HVAC, and new windows, and fix the foundation, and do all the things that the house needs to sustain itself over time. And that's not, that's not a flipper's mindset.
Absolutely. And I would say you never know what's going to be behind the walls, right? Every time you get into a flip, you don't really know the real cost of it. So there's some pitfalls in that. So you've done it all. Airbnbs, flipping, the whole nine. Why did you choose new construction? Beyond the comp, what do you love about new construction? What does it do for you?
So building is our strength. That's our strongest tool. So for us, that's the easiest part, right? And for a lot of people, building new construction is very daunting because you're like, oh, if I flip, all I got to do is paint something, maybe put some carpet in. But to take a house from an existing house, tear it down, permit it, build it all the way up, seems like a really big task. But it's truly just a kit of parts. It's just a series of steps. And those steps you can plan, and you can be really efficient with new construction. So the reason I like new construction is I can build a business around new construction because I know general timelines for development, I know general timelines for construction, and while the sales market is always unpredictable, the build market is pretty consistent.
So you're talking about a series of steps. When you're looking at a project going from A to Z, what broadly are those series of steps?
So depending on the size of the project and if it's a development or not, we'll take a single family house, for example. Let's say you acquire a lot. Well, the first thing you do is get with Garland or his team. You're going to evaluate the lot. So you're going to see, is it buildable? What are the deed restrictions? Right? What's the size of the lot? There's an existing structure? Is it clean, cleared land? What's the condition? And then you'll go through a series of evaluations. So soil testing, permitting, all the research from title work. Once you actually own the lot and you get into permitting, then you'll get into all your surveying. You'll know, okay, what can I build? We have plans that we build. We have a production build company, so we build a lot of the same plans over and over again. So we generally know what we're looking for when we look at land. But from that, you'll permit the project. Once you come out of permitting, you'll already have pricing because you'll price it while you're permitting it. And then you'll start construction. You'll go from building the pad, doing the undergrounds for the plumbing, putting in the foundation, from foundation to framing. From framing, you'll go through all the MVPs. Basically all the steps. I could go through every single one of them, but I don't know if that's valuable.
Is it valuable? Yeah, I'm seeing a lot of head nods. That would be valuable.
Okay, so from framing includes your windows and doors. You'll do all your rough ends MVPs, you'll do your siding, or if you do brick, stucco, stone, whatever you do. Once you finish that, you're going into insulation, you're going to finish drywall, do all your trim, so cabinets, tile, doors, every single small little accent in the house. So all the things that make the house pretty, this is kind of the style for that. So countertops, light fixtures, plumbing fixtures, all the fun things. And then during that process, you're also working on your utilities. So your plumbing connections, sewer connections. You're working on driveways. After you get out of kind of rough stage, you'll put your driveway in. After you finish all of that, then you'll actually do all the final punch. So you'll do all your final painting, final touch-up, all that.
Now that a lot of that is what a builder would do. And so let's talk a little bit about the distinction between a developer and a builder.
Sure.
And then let's talk about, most people in this room, I would say, need to hire a builder.
Sure.
And let's talk about that process. What does that look like? And what should they be looking for?
So developers a fun buzzword, in 2025 terms, but it's essentially, think about an orchestra. The developer is the composer, or not the composer, but the person who leads the orchestra. It's your job. You might not play the saxophone, but you need to know how the saxophone needs to sound, right? And where it goes in your assembly. So you're the person who's responsible to bring all the pieces and components together because you're responsible for the overall outcome. So I tell my staff, there's no ego in finishing a house. You don't have to be the biggest fool in the States, right? If you get in an argument with somebody, it doesn't matter because at the end of the day, your job is to finish the project. That's how you show your success. It's the same thing with the developer. There's no point in arguing with people about, oh, well, you know, I think it should be like this, or what's the easiest way for us to get this project completed to my specifications? And that's it. So I like to say, and this is my personal saying, I give all yeses so I don't hear no's. That's my personal philosophy. So tell me what you need, tell me what your pricing is, tell me what your requirements are. And if those are agreeable to me, I'm going to give you what you asked for so that I can get the outcome that I'm looking for. For a developer, you're an outcome-focused person. And that's it.
I love that. And then contrast that to a builder.
So a builder is very similar, but it's one component of a project. So it's just either the vertical construction, or you could have builders who do the horizontal. But that person's only focused on that particular aspect. What they don't consider is the other factors of a project, right? The financing. Necessarily, it depends on the builder. The financing, the stakeholders, the sales process. Because your builder's not going to sell your house, right? Your builder's not going to tell you what's sellable in your market or what looks good. If you want to put pink tile in that shower and you spec it out, they're going to let you do it. That might not help you on the end, but that's not something that a builder's thinking about. So we had a saying in college, if subcontractors had it all figured out, they'd be general contractors. If general contractors had it all figured out, they'd be owners. So we have to be all three. So we kind of got to know what we're doing.
Absolutely. And speaking of contractors and builders, like I said, most of the people here will need to hire those people to get their deal done. How do you recommend vet builders, and then how do you go about vetting your contractors?
Before we dive back in, I want to let you know about an exclusive opportunity to share the recordings from Coffee and Construction with you. If you're serious about building your real estate development career, raising capital, and taking everything to the next level, these recordings are packed with actionable insights and expert interviews that are going to help you do just that. Check the description below for more information on how you can get access to all of the recordings and an invitation to the next Coffee and Construction event. Whether you're a beginner or you're looking to scale your career, this series is meant to give you the tools and resources you'll need to succeed. Now let's get back to it.
So you definitely want to see everybody you're thinking about working with, you want to see their work, right? You want to talk to recommendations, you want to get all the information that you can about who this person is, especially if you're newer and don't have the ability to appraise their work accurately. You at least want to talk to the professionals in your circle or on your team who can tell you, oh, I've worked with this person before, or, I've seen this project, or they work with this other person. Houston's a very small market. Generally, the people who are doing work in Houston generally know each other, especially in the residential space, even in the commercial space for that matter. So your reputation precedes you. And when you do bad work, it also precedes you. So there's a lot of contractors out here, because we don't have general contracting licenses, people just pop us on their truck and, hey, I'm a GC. You want to go, show me your last project. Let me talk to your last customer. Let me actually look at what you spent versus what your budget is. Let me look at what the suppliers are saying about you. Let me look at, okay, you're one person, but who's your crew? Who's your actual, the people doing the work?
That was probably some of the best vetting suggestions that I've heard. I hope y'all wrote that down. That was very valuable. Because contractors will make or break your project 10 times out of 10 times. If you get the wrong contractor, you're sunk.
Can I tell you a secret?
Yeah, of course.
A good contractor can be a bad contractor, and a bad contractor can be a good contractor, all in how you manage them.
That's where I was going next. So I want you to talk about what systems do you have in place, and how are you managing your contractors, and how did you manage them in the beginning, and now that you've scaled to multiple states, what does that look like?
So our management process is the same. We're very hands-on. So our company's all management. We don't self-perform any work. So I have a staff of construction managers, project engineers that actually work. They're full-time employees that work for us. They're responsible for the site. So the time that I spend physically building a house is very little at this point, but it wasn't always that way. So in my experience and over time, you learn what your style of work is and how to manage to your expectations. And you have to find the systems that work for you. So in our business, we use a software called Builder's Trend to manage the project management components of it, but there are a lot of decisions in a house that have to be made that you can make in advance to help you ease the process. So I try to do something called preventable mistakes. I guess that's the simplest way to call it. But it's essentially making enough decisions that prevent you from having calamities in the future, right? And what I do by that is advanced planning. So before a house, the foundation's ever poured, we know almost every component in the house. And even if we decide to make changes, those changes are still commensurate with the plan that we set out. So I can visualize the house before we ever build it. By the time we actually get it built, I'm kind of done with it at that point. A lot of people, that's a harder thing to do, but that's why you have the designers, and that's why you have people to help you. The more you know about what you want to achieve, the easier managing it will be, and that's why you want to leverage your team. When you get to the physical process of managing construction, it's not hands-off. You have to be there every day. Regardless of what Instagram tells you or TV tells you, unless you have somebody who works there who's responsible to be there every day, you have to be there every day because you're protecting your investment. So that's looking at the work that your contractors are actually doing. What's behind your walls, even in new construction. Because you wouldn't believe the things that contractors hide in their work that they cover up later, right? So you want to make sure that you're aware and present so that they're not getting anything over on you. You also want to make sure that you're complying with the documents that your architects, engineers, and designers specify. So the more information you get from your design team and you understand that information, the more you can accurately look at what's happening in the field.
So let's dig into that a little bit more. How do you, in the thread of management, what are the documents, agreements, agreements you have between your contractors or expectations that you have for your contractors and your staff? What does that look like? What are the best practices you've come upon over the last few years? So
we use a standard subcontractor agreement that our attorney has drafted, and we use it annually. So we have all of our contractors sign an annual agreement because we build 20 to 40 homes a year. Having 20 contractors or 20 contracts for each contractor would be a waste of time. So we do master contracts. If you're going to build multiple houses, let's say if you're building 5 houses in a pack, you could do one contractor or one contract for a contractor and have 5 POs attached to that contract. Does that make sense? The baseline for your contract is going to be your plan specifications and your design documents. And then within that, you're going to have your additional stipulations. So these are your insurance requirements, your lien release requirements, your payment schedule. So when your contractors getting paid, are they invoicing you? What's their expectation versus what your expectation is? right? Is there an inspection period from when they invoice you to know, hey, this work is done, now I can issue your check, right? Are they calling you, hey, I finished at 3 o'clock, can you have my check by 5? Does that work for you? It might not work for you. So all these things are things that you have to refine for your business, but you have to treat it like a business. Because it's gonna be as wild and crazy as you let. Does that make sense?
No, that makes perfect sense, and that's a very good point. Now, I know you guys have gotten to a place where you have, annual contracts and all of these things, but in the beginning, I'm sure you had to work with some difficult contractors, or you've been through some experiences. What happens when things do not go according to plan, or what repercussions do you have in your contract to ensure that contractors are following your guidelines?
So you know what's funny, and I'm going to give you probably something that's more controversial than that. Things are always going to go wrong. That's just the nature of construction.
Absolutely.
Right? Contractors going to mess up, people going to break gas lines, people going to do all kinds of things. So those are to be expected. As far as recourse in your contract, the biggest thing that you can do to help yourself is try to prevent it before it happens. Because honestly, there's very little that you can do on the backside. Because let's say, for instance, you have a contract with me to do something to build this couch. And I've given you, $1,000, you're halfway building the couch. And then we get to a place where it just doesn't work. I'm not going to get my $1,000 back. Because the recourse would be, oh, well, you wasted my time, blah, 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 I have to find somebody else to finish it, so I need my money back. That's not going to happen. The easiest thing you can do, and it's very similar to being a landlord, right? You can do cash for keys, or you can do the eviction process. You can try to see which one is cheaper and which one saves you time. A lot of times, if we find a subcontractor that's not living up to our expectations, we let them go, but a lot of times, it's like, hey, let's find an amount for the work that you did and move on. I'm also going to be real clear. Houston's real small. Contractors will burn your house down. I'm dead ass serious. They'll break your windows. They'll do all kind of crazy things. So it's just not worth it. It's better to move on. The people who try to fight all the battles and, I'm going to hold them accountable. Why? It's not worth it. You take somebody small claims court for $5 grand, you're going to spend $5 grand in attorney's fees. I move on. My goal is to get the project completed. Now, if there's something that's major, if it's $100,000 in damage, and you couldn't prevent it before that $100,000 mistake occurred, then that's something that you have insurance for, you do have attorneys for when the amounts get really large, but the majority of people are talking about like very small things, right? It's like they brought the wrong cabinet, they blah, 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 it's small stuff. Your goal is to get your project to completion. A lot of times there's going to be a lot of broken eggs in that process.
And what could people take away today to make their process easier?
So when we started, as I mentioned, it was kind of self-serving, right? It was literally building either our own rental portfolio or building houses to serve kind of a small portion of clients. And what we found over time was the demand far exceeded even our thoughts and expectations. And the business grew based on the opportunities. It was an opportunistic growth. I was managing projects across the country already. So from a logistics standpoint, I actually had to step back and we left our full-time jobs to grow our business. So we started our business in 2016.
I'm sorry, I just want to note that you kept, now I'm not shaming anybody, I'm an entrepreneur by heart, I can't do the 9 to 5, but to be clear, he kept his, your wife kept hers, until they absolutely had to leave, and I think that's really important because in this business, things happen, like you said, stuff breaks, and contrary to popular belief, like, it's not always daisies and rainbows and sunshine. You don't get paid until your deal is done, and if you sell it at a loss, you don't get paid, right? So it's really important to have alternative streams of income that can support you, your livelihood, your family, and protect your credit, protect your credit, so that you can continue to be able to build a business. So you created a huge business and you kept your job for as long as possible. And I just want to note that because a lot of people want to jump ship before they really need to.
You know, I think the thing to think about in development or building, to go into this industry, you have to really understand that it's a long-term vision. It's not a hustle. It's very hard you ain't gonna make $1 million in your first year. Like, those things are like, they're fairy dust. They sprinkle them on children to get into the game. But the reality of the situation, it is hard, and it takes money, and it costs, and it can cost you. So having a job, having a stream of income so that you can feed your children, and they can still go to school, and you can pay your car note is very important. For us, as we built our business, like you said, we got to a point where we had staff that needed direction on a day-to-day basis, and I'm on a plane from Sunday to Thursday every week. I'm not here. I'm in California, I'm in Louisiana, I'm in Washington, managing projects, and I have 2 phones and 2 computers for 3 years. It was a lot to do. So when we left our jobs, which we quit our jobs at the same time, I don't recommend that. That was very ghetto. We had the best, worst year of our lives. And that was the same year that we took a lot of those losses. So it was like, woo, celebration. And then it was like, oh my God, we're going to lose everything. And then you crash on the rocks, and then you ultimately find your wings. But there are easier ways to do it. For us, it's been a beautiful journey of growth. To get to where we are now, we've gone through several iterations of staff, several iterations of whether it's refining from doing the initial flips and rentals to all new construction. We found what's worked, and we pivoted. I think, my wife has a great saying about pivoting, not panicking. Because at any point in time, things might not go your way. Things don't go our way all the time, and I'll give you an example. We opened up an office in Birmingham, Alabama. So we were blessed to be on a national tour for Black Men Buy Houses, thanks to NARAB. So we've been traveling with them for the last year and a half. And one of the cities we did a panel in was Birmingham, Alabama. They reciprocated, they were able to come here. Some folks from Birmingham came here and were able to see our product here in Houston. And the city of Birmingham was like, well, we want Park Street homes in Birmingham. We're like, yeah. We're like, well, we can consult with you. We can show you exactly what we're doing. Like, no, we want you to build here. So I told them what I needed. I said, well, I need a runway of land. I need a runway of subsidy. I need some type of security to know that if we invest in coming here, that it's going to be worth our while. And for those of you who have been to Birmingham, Birmingham is a much different market than Houston. It looks very similar, but it's a much smaller town. So the population of Birmingham is smaller than Sugar Land. So we had to have a lot of confidence going into that market. So our product type in that market is very similar to our affordable product here, but we don't do our market rate product in the same way. We're very specific about the projects that we're doing there. We had to bring on a staff member there, which finding staff there was hard. So we were able to find somebody who, a very well-experienced candidate that I was super excited about, and we were able to hire him. Well, our opportunity we've been working on for the last year, we had to bring this person on because of several circumstances way earlier than we anticipated. And this isn't a chief staff member. So you have to be prepared for the investment that it takes to be in another market, have an office in another market. which is hundreds of thousands of dollars. It's not like cheap. So all of those are considerations when you go into another market. But the beauty and the blessing of it is when it rains in one place, it doesn't rain in another. So sometimes, as my mentor says, go where the opportunities are and go where you're prepared to go. You need advocates, you need people who champion you in these places. You need support, so you have to have the team to support them. You have to have great advisors, so we have a great CFO service, we have a great legal team, we have a legal team in Alabama as well. We have marketing, PR in Alabama. We have a lot of resources that that market has that are specific to that market that help us be successful in it. So it's working, and we're excited about that. And you know, to grow our business here, our goal in Houston is to grow to a couple hundred homes a year here in Houston, and then a couple hundred homes a year in Birmingham.
Yes. It's been a very exciting conversation. Please tell people where they can follow you, and then also any last thoughts before we take questions.
Kevin Shelton, Kevan, on Instagram, LinkedIn, all the things. ParkStreetHomes.com. Super simple. That's about it. I'm low key, so I probably need to do a better job on the socials. That's not my forte.
I mean, but what your forte is making money, so we're happy about that. Questions? I see a question in the back. I don't think I have a mic floating yet.
There's another mic here.
Real quick. Shelton, First Lady, I just want to give you your flowers. When I got started in the business several years ago, I pulled up on Kevin, and he held me by the hands and showed me everything that he was working on. And I was calling him, asking him a question about new construction. And I just want to say in front of the millions of people, we appreciate you. I am the Andre I am today because you played a vital role in that. And so Houston is a great market to network. And thank you, Kevin, for being you for sure. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Oh, in the back.
Yes, Kevin is a legend. Kevin, can you talk about more about that connection with Birmingham and how you guys were able to even go in and figure out like everything that the city wants?
So it took a lot of collaboration with the city. We literally worked from City Hall when we were in Birmingham. We had to be very intentional about building our relationship with the city because nothing's guaranteed, and you know it's really seeing if there's a fit. One of the things about it is while Texas doesn't have general contractor requirements, we also had to get licensed, right? So we had to get general contractor licensing, we had to get insurance, we had to make major investments from time. So for the last year and a half, we go to Birmingham at least once, maybe twice a month, and that's including with having staff. So it took a lot of investment in our time to get to where we are now, and we're just getting started.
James and Jennifer Davis, Types Construction. So, what industry is in Birmingham? And selling the homes and doing 200 homes, it's a small market overall. Is that growing now, or what?
So Birmingham is a very interesting city because the MSA is over 1 million, it might be 1.5 million people, but Birmingham proper, city of Birmingham, is about 200, no, more than that, sorry. It might be right under 400,000 people. And that's down from where it previously was. So understanding what the AMIs, the area median income in the city of Birmingham is very important. They have a really big school there, UAB, which is their largest employer. The hospital system is a big employer in Birmingham. City workers are a big employer, so our product type has to match the available buyers, right? And we're bringing a product that, for us, we know works for an urban environment. So the types of neighborhoods are very similar, the makeup is very similar, right? Whether it comes to blight or whether it comes to crime, things like that, we have a lot of the same concerns, considerations, and safety factors. So we know how to build for that clientele to be attracted to our product in the urban environment. We have to design, price our product to be commensurate with the income levels of the city. And our push there, our marketing push there, is to come back to Birmingham. So very much like building in inner city Houston, you're creating demand by, I call it the oasis factor, right? So when you pull in your home, you forget about your surroundings, because we can't necessarily control the areas, right? If we were a suburban builder, you have an A area. Well, building an urban environment, you might have a B area, but you can't have an A product. And it's up to you to design based on what you want your unique selling factors to be for your potential buyer. So we're just really intentional about that.
Perfect. Any other questions?
So what were the gratis offerings or the concessions that they made that actually kept you there or you negotiated?
So Birmingham is looking to spur development, so they have been extremely aggressive in attracting developers. They had a big developer summit, and they talked about just the collaboration in the city, working with various departments. So while a lot of the red tape that we experience here, they still have the same bureaucracy, but if your city is focused on growth and development, you can get a lot farther than you can here. So for us, it's collaboration over everything more than anything. It's knowing that we have a runway to create a pipeline of projects, right? While nothing's guaranteed, whether that's an amount of land or a subsidy amount, what we have guaranteed is that they have a collaborative relationship to work with us to build and incentivize us project for project on what we need. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I was looking more for a dollar amount.
So it all depends on the city, and it all depends on the project. There's nothing set in stone.
All right, let's ask you one more question.
Hi, quick question. What was the hardest part about scaling to the size that you are now, and as you continue to scale, how are you overcoming those obstacles?
So the biggest obstacle, and it's probably something that we didn't really touch on, was capital, right? Development is a very capital-intensive business. So over the last almost 9 years, we have raised and returned about $7 million in private capital, and done probably another 12 to 50 million in banking capital, right? And then in addition to that, we've also done various levels of raising money for our company on an institutional level. So that's, we did a Reg CF in 2023 and raised money from the general public. We raised money from larger private investors and sold equity in our company, so we did a whole corporate conversion. There's a lot of things that come with that, whether it's financial regulation and red tape, the corporate restructuring piece, a lot of legal, a lot of financials, audits, all kind of craziness. It took the better part of 9 months to go through just the financial rigor to do the Reg CF. And then on the private raise, it took the better part of 8 months, and we invested about $200,000 in cleaning up our books to do that. And that was a major investment. And we still continuously go through different iterations of that. So.
And we're going to talk more about raising capital this afternoon. But yeah, it is capital intensive to raise capital. So, all right, in the interest of us staying on time, let's give Kevin a round of applause. You'll be able to meet with him tomorrow on the bus tour if you are signed up for that. If you need more information about that, please see him or Astrid or Des at some point today.
Thanks so much for joining us for this special Build with Brittany episode, our replay of Coffee and Construction, which just happened this last April. If you want an invitation to the next Coffee and Construction or more information about how you can get access to all of the replays of the event, please check the description below. And also check out our playlist right somewhere around here. We will have all of our podcast episodes and our replays up in a special playlist so that you can get access to it. If you enjoyed this content, please let me know in the comments. If you have questions or things you want us to dive deeper in, please leave them in the comments. And until next time, keep building.